and you are right on the border of my beloved neighborhood, Buffalo's historic Fruit Belt neighborhood. Development is a great thing. We love development. We love to see lots of nice, shiny buildings going up. But unfortunately, for people who've lived for decades and generations, the cost of living is becoming unaffordable. So in order to kind of contain and keep people from being displaced, we are asking our elected officials to adopt a policy that's called inclusionary zoning. Has anyone ever heard? Inclusionary zoning requires that all new developments that are financed with public money reserve some of those apartments for low to moderate income individuals. In this area of Buffalo, 30 to 45% of people live below the federal poverty guidelines. This is something that is needed in our city. It's an urgency. There's a housing crisis. There are people doubled and tripled up because there's no affordable housing. So we need your help and support. Secondly, the Fruit Belt neighborhood is working on a historic and monumental project that has not been seen like this in this area. It's called the Community Land Trust. There are 300 vacant lots in the Fruit Belt. We are asking the city of Buffalo to negotiate with the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust so that we can have control over development, so that we can provide stable, safe, affordable housing for people in our neighborhood. If you are also in support of that, you may go to our Facebook page at Community First Alliance, Community FIRSTALLIANCE. There's a GoFundMe account that's up and running, and Community First Alliance just today was able to donate $25,000 to the land trust to begin acquiescing land to put into the trust. We're all in this together. Buffalo is the city of good neighbors. So come out tomorrow to the Inclusionary Zoning hearing at City Hall. Like our Facebook page at Community First Alliance, and check out our GoFundMe page. Also have a little blue cooler over there on the corner. If anybody wants to reach into their pockets and donate now, I'll make sure it gets back to the Fruit Belt. Thank you, and enjoy your ride. You want me to hold it?
If you want water again, the big waters are for $1 and the little waters are for 50 cents.
Good evening, Slow Roll. Welcome back to the Fruit Belt. My name is India Walton. I am a board member of the FB Community Land Trust. Our mission is to create and preserve permanent affordable housing in this neighborhood. We have been working very diligently and look forward to breaking ground on our first 2 permanently affordable homes on Rose Street. So we just want to thank everyone for all of your undying support. But another part of what I do is I sort of support everything Fruit Belt. There's a wonderful organization about 3 blocks over called Locust Street Arts, and they provide art classes free of charge to the community. Fruit Belt, Eastside, all of Buffalo, anyone can just drop in and register and take classes free of charge, or pay what you can. And Locust Street is having an all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner fundraiser. I have flyers. It's going to be on Sunday, October 14th at Troop Hamlin House. That's at 432 Franklin. For $10, you get all-you-can-eat spaghetti and meatballs. There's vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options available as well. So if you are so inclined, please feel free to come out and join us. There's a little kid with a hoodie on that has a bear on it, and he's passing around flyers. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, india@openbuffalo.org. Thank you.
Good evening, good neighbors. Welcome to another virtual slow roll, our community land trust ride. I'm sure at least a few of you were confused at seeing those old videos at the start, thinking maybe we were live out on the street with a big group of riders. Of course, we're not right now. My name is Seamus, here on behalf of Slow Roll Buffalo, and we thank Independent Health, our presenting partner, for being there for us, keeping the wheels turning since 2015, and especially for their support ongoing. While we're not able to have our public group rides yet, we will resume them when public health leaders advise, and we're keeping in touch with them on when to do that responsibly. In the meantime, we're having these virtual slow rolls. So appreciate y'all tuning in the present and in the future. We are back in the Fruit Belt, where we have been many times, and our co-host tonight, the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust Executive Director India Walton is with us. And you saw India in those old clips in 2017 and 18 as we were beginning to work together. And the reason that we've called this a Community Land Trust Ride, and we've done that over the course of the last few years, having a Community Land Trust Ride at least once a year with Slow Roll, is that early on, Slow Roll, our mission is about connecting communities by bike. And we do that in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that it's happened here in one of the most segregated cities in America is the disconnect of people who really don't understand each other, don't understand each other's different neighborhoods and communities in our own city, in our own region. What we began to hear feedback about Slow Roll is that we were a tool for prospective gentrifiers looking to go into neighborhoods and using us as a cover to go and scout for properties. And we were like, well, that's not what we're about. We were coming from our place of privilege, not really understanding the depth of it, the depth of the tension, and how we were seen as a force of bad and not a force of good that we intend to be. And so the way we saw out of that was to really start learning, start building relationships, which is what we've always been wanting to do about building relationships, but we realized we needed to learn more. And so we, through that learning, really, deep connection in the community, it became apparent to us that one way that we can be a force for good in the conversation and action about gentrification in Buffalo is to align here with the leading community land trust here in Buffalo. And we've been supporting the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust financially with our platform over the past few years, and really grateful that it's become a real strong bond, and hopefully something that y'all who are watching this, however much you know about gentrification and how a community land trust is a force for good in that issue, that we've been able to support this and inform a lot of people and really make a lot of great relationships, a lot of great connections. And that's why India is here to be our co-host tonight, and we're really going to turn this over. So India, it's great to see you.
It's always good to see you as well. Tonight is going to be an exciting ride because we're going to be featuring a lot of my favorite places and people. It's really heartening for me to see myself 3 years ago, and to know how much progress even I've made as an individual, but also how our organization, the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust, has grown, and how our relationship, between Seamus, you and I, has grown, and our relationship with Slow Roll, who has really turned out to be a great supporter. I mean, besides financially and helping us raise funds, the volunteers come out and partner with us on community cleanups. We recently wrapped up a food distribution as our response to COVID. That Slow Roll riders showed up every single week to help us out doing that. Not to mention that Earl McCarley is a dedicated slow roller, and also a member of our board of directors. So I think that for folks who are not familiar with the neighborhood, one of the things that you'll notice is the lack of density and the amount of vacant land. And we really want to be able to put those parcels back to productive use in the form of permanently affordable housing. The Fruit Belt's a great community. It's a great neighborhood. I don't live there currently, but for the time I did, our neighbors are actual neighbors, right? When they say put the neighbor back in the hood, the Fruit Belt is a place that really exemplifies what a neighborhood looks, feels, smells, and tastes like. It's weird because on whatever day this was, you can see there's people having a little gathering. Folks come outside, they still say hey to each other. We know everybody who lives on the street. We still have the Miss Bars and the Miss Lots, who knows all the neighborhood business. So, whatever's going on, there's always someone that you can refer to. So this, we're coming up on Virginia Street. What is this? Grape, maybe?
Yeah, so we're going up and down. So we just went down roads where the lots that the land trust has. We started there, and so we're just kind of doing a north-south zigzag.
Right. So I think what the Fruit Belt gets known for mostly is not the thing that we are the most vocal about, and that's all of the historic structures. So one place we just passed down on Grape Street is Gethsemane Baptist Church, or now I think it's just called Grape Street. But that's a treasure. There's also Promised Land that's up on Mulberry and High. That is also a very, very old building. It's just a great neighborhood full of great people. Folks have owned homes for generations and generations, and just want to have a say in how the neighborhood feels to them. Moving forward, I think we just probably passed Miss Barr's house on Grape Street. Now we're coming back up on High. This was recently renamed Hazel Irene Galt Way in honor of a longtime activist and advocate from the neighborhood. And her son Antari will be joining us a little later on to talk about some of the impacts of that. Yeah, so I don't know how much else I have at this point. But and this was a great day that you guys chose to do this, because it really shows how beautiful this neighborhood is. It can use some TLC, but it's a really great place. So a lot of people don't know this, but the Fruit Belt, right? We know that it was named after all the fruit trees, but a fruit belt is technically a microclimate. High Street is called High Street because it's one of the highest points in the city of Buffalo. So the Fruit Belt really does actually get more sun than other areas of the city. So it's called the Fruit Belt because all the streets are named after trees, but all of those streets are named after trees because it used to be full of orchards because it's a microclimate. It tends to be warmer, sunnier, buggier. But just a great place to raise a family and to really be. Those, I mean, those are my people. I think living in the Fruit Belt, being able to serve in the Fruit Belt really has changed my life and my perspective on a lot of things. So I'm grateful and honored to be a member of that community.
Well, can you explain? There's a great story of how that came to be, how you went from a resident of the Fruit Belt to one of its leading advocates.
Yeah, so my entry into the Fruit Belt was not a pleasant one, much like yours, Seamus. When I got there, I was like, oh, you are the problem. You're a gentrifier, right? I was a nurse at Children's. I wanted to live close because the hospital was relocating. And I moved into a home that at the time, no one else in the neighborhood would ever be caught dead paying for. So first, they thought I was a plant, that someone had placed me there. But as I began to really get to know my neighbors and what the issues were, and I didn't have a driveway. I had to park on the street, and there was nowhere for me to park either. And I'm just like, wow, this is messed up. Because all of the people who show up to the community meetings are elders, people who really can't afford to be walking blocks to their car. So one of the first campaigns in the neighborhood I was involved with was the parking. And that was a successful campaign. The first time it's ever been done in New York State. We won state level legislation to get a neighborhood-based parking permit system in the neighborhood, so that you have to have a Fruit Belt address to be able to park on certain areas of the neighborhood. And that was really one of the things that was the impetus of the creation of the land trust, was because we knew that we were going to have the political power and will. And we just began to think bigger, right? If we can do this one thing that people were saying has never been done before and you're not allowed, then what else can we possibly accomplish, right? And it's like, well, no one negotiates with people who don't own anything. So it's like, all right, well, let's own the land. And that is how we will wield our neighborhood level people power and political strength to get things done. So that's something that we're very proud of, is our parking system, and we're also proud of all of the things that are bound to come in the very near future. COVID has kind of set some things back, but we're encouraged. Now we're coming up on School 37, which is now known as Marvin J. Daniels Futures Academy. It's a neighborhood school. We have hosted many community meetings. We've participated in Saturday academies here, really a pillar of the community. And this is a prime example of the power of the folks in that neighborhood. There was a time when Marvin J. Daniels was considered a failing school, and they wanted to close it. And the community really came out and saved that school from being closed. And you know, we still have that asset in our community today, which is a pretty big deal, especially with, you know, children being bused far away from home to attend school. The children in our neighborhood have the option to attend neighborhood schools right where they live. So that's something that I feel like is super important also. So here we are. You can see BFNC, they call it. After the Buffalo Federation of Neighborhood Centers. It actually is the little street that separates the neighborhood from the Kensington Expressway, which, you know, regular viewers, I'm sure, have heard Restore Our Community Coalition and Seamus speak about the devastating impacts that the creation of 33 had on neighborhoods. And the Fruit Belt is a prime example of that. The Fruit Belt, you know, Hamlin Park is pretty much intact. But when you think about the fact that Humboldt Parkway used to be a beautiful parkway similar to what we have over on Richmond and Lincoln Parkway, and, you know, the decision was made to build a highway through it, right? That exposes a lot of the systemic inequities in the way cities are planned and cities are developed. I won't get too much into it. It's a conversation with Lene.
I don't mind.
But, you know, the 33 wasn't created because the people didn't resist. The people did resist. It was just that they didn't matter as much as they should have.
Yeah, you know, when we had our Restore Our Community ride a couple weeks ago, the leader of Restore Our Community Coalition, Stephanie Barber Jeter, said that the community voted against building the expressway 3 times, and obviously was ignored. And that issue begins. We're gonna that issue coming from downtown, the issue of the highway separating neighborhoods, begins in the Fruit Belt, and we're going to show that here because we're going to ride to the other side of the expressway because you're still in the Fruit Belt, as evidenced by the fact that you're on Cherry Street. So, well, can you, speaking of fruit here, we're going to stop just for a quick look here at a community garden that's with Grassroots Gardens, and we'll see in this video when we stop. So we're coming up Orange Street now, and see that little library there. There are a few little libraries in the Fruit Belt. We'll see another one that we put ourselves, Slow Roll, has a bunch of those that we've installed around the city. And we stopped for a little while longer here because one of our squad riding with us, and we're all masked up, is our volunteer Frida, who is a retired librarian, and she leads up our restocking of the little libraries around the city. So she said, "Oh, there's a little library. I have so many books. Let me see if it needs any more books." But can you tell us a little bit about? I think I loop around here a little bit, or maybe we do keep going. I do a little loop here about this this community garden.
Owned land. So I don't know if folks know, but a lot of the Grassroots Gardens, they lease them from the city. And when we talk about land trust, our land trust is a community land trust. There are also conservation land trusts, which Grassroots Garden is now a conservation land trust and has the ability to hold land so that its purpose can always be used for the public good, such as gardens, right? But that is a city-owned lot that School 37 uses for play space and green space for the school. Grassroots Gardens has a community garden there that they work with students from the University of Buffalo and students from School 37 to maintain. They recently turned that over to Groundworks Buffalo to do the maintenance on the lot, but we're really interested in ways that the city can take these public assets and put them into the hands of, you know, organizations that we know are going to be around and are going to really seek to have the best interest of the community at heart, and not just have them all sold up from underneath us to build large developers on or to benefit the wealthy. The entire point of what we want to do is to keep land in the hands of the community, power in the hands of the community, to maintain the fabric, the historical character and nature of the Fruit Belt neighborhood, and make sure that the folks who want to be there, who've weathered the storms of disinvestment, of redlining, of not being able to access equity in their homes to make repairs, now is the time that we can reinvest in this community in meaningful ways that protects the people who are vulnerable from displacement, and also rewards of sticking it out all these years when no one else cared.
Right on. We just turned left on the north. So that is the Maston Armory City Honors School up on the left, on the right, pardon me. And we're just gonna keep zigzagging up and down the Fruit Belt. So this left turn brings us down Lemon, correct?
So I used to live on Lemon Street. It's a very peaceful place to be. I would lay on my couch in the summer with my screen door open without a care in the world. And once we get down to Carlton, I will show you. We are about a week and a half or 2 weeks from closing on acquisition of an existing home that's going to be a full gut rehab that we'll put on the market for a low to moderate income family to purchase. So that is also very, very exciting. There's my old house here on the left, the little red one. It was that was such a cute house. I wish I could have stayed there. And you know, the closer you get to Carlton, I know we're going to have a stop at the co-op, but one block over is the site where the co-op will eventually be located.
Right there.
So right here, yep. Over this stop sign across from this yellow house. This little one there, look, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see me. The little one there, though, with the enclosed porch, we're this close to closing on that house, and we're going to do a rehab on that. We're going to hire people from the neighborhood, and prayerfully, we're going to be able to relocate a long-term renter and put them into a home of their own. We really are concerned with community wealth building. Our homes are permanently affordable, so we don't believe that homes are commodities, but we do believe that safe, permanently affordable housing is there's 74 Lemon. There's a story about that too, but I'll get back to that.
I took a long look at it, yeah.
We believe that safe, stable, affordable housing is really, you know, the hallmark, the foundation of being able to improve the conditions of folks. We know that when people own and control where they live, crime goes down, property values go up. Everyone knows, if you lived in any neighborhood for any length of time, you can tell the difference between who owns and who rents. No shade to renters, but like, you don't have any incentive to make investments in where you live if it's not yours, right? So we really want to be able to increase the chances of homeownership for folks who live in that neighborhood. I know people who've lived in the Fruit Belt for 30 years and rented. And if you can pay rent for 30 years, you would have paid off a mortgage. So why not? 74 Lemon is slated for demo. We are trying our hardest to work with the owner to get it. The entire thing is to put land and property into productive use. With the housing crisis, with the vacancy in the Fruit Belt, there's no reason why we should have vacant buildings, vacant lots, we just need to rethink and reimagine our land use strategies and how we better serve our community through innovation and taking radical risks. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with trying out something that you've never done before. It's worked all over the country, and it can work for us too as long as we make it. We're on Locust Street in Virginia. We're coming up on Teen Challenge, which is a converted, what do you call it, where nuns live?
A convent?
A convent. I was going to call it a nunnery. That's not it. And next to that is Locust Street Art, a very important institution in the Fruit Belt neighborhood, formerly known as the Molly Bethel School, that has for a very long time provided free art classes to children and adults in the neighborhood. So I'd like to bring on the executive director, Ray, and I'd like Ray to tell us all about all the wonderful things happening at Locust Street Art.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Yeah, so I actually was caught at the building when they rode by. So there I am, and here I am. It's really kind of exciting. But yeah, so Locust Street Art, it was actually founded about 60 years ago by a woman named Molly Bethel on the east side. She had her home, I can't remember, it wasn't on Dodge, but it was right around there. And a young girl would walk past Molly's house every day, and she would walk slower and slower, just staring at Molly painting on her porch. So finally Molly was like, can I help you with something? And the little girl asked if she was an artist and asked if Molly would teach her. Molly, of course, said yes. And then from there it was born. And Molly had a kid on every surface of her home creating art after school. So she decided to do something about it. She talked to local churches, and there was a church actually where the 33 is now, which I heard India was talking about that. And so she was able to use the basement of that church. When the 33 went in, Molly Olga, now Locust Street Art, kind of was homeless and needed a new home. So luckily the nuns who lived in this convent allowed Molly to conduct classes out of the very first two rooms. And after some time, the whole first floor, and then the building went up for sale. And now this next bit of story really, really shows how amazing the Fruit Belt neighborhood is, and why I fell in love with it, the second that I went over there. So this building went up for sale, and in order to buy it, Molly and the staff put donation jars out at every business, because there used to be a business on every corner of the Fruit Belt. And so through these tip jars or donation jars rather, the entire community was able to buy the building outright for the art school. So this building really does belong to the community, and I feel that everything that we do within that building belong to the community and always give back. So we do free art classes in the spring months and in the fall months. Winter, we do a winter weekend series that's free. And throughout the summer, we have different summer camps that are very low cost. So the free classes all consist of photography, drawing, painting for kids and adults, ceramics, which is hand built or on the pottery wheel. Our photography is digital as well as black and white film photography with a whole darkroom set up. And we have animation, computer and hand-drawn animation. So it's really, really grown throughout the years from just a place where it was drawing and painting. And all of that is due to the community and the wants and the needs of the community. So I'm so proud to be there. It makes me so happy. Happiest place on earth.
You've really done a great job of expanding the program. I'm so proud of you. I'm on the board of Locust Street Art, and Locust Street is actually my first experience serving on a board, and I've learned so much. So Ray, if folks want to learn more about Locust Street or get in touch with you, where should they go?
go to locuststreetart.org.
Perfect. Thank
Or
you.
there, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place now. I really thank you guys for this opportunity to talk about the best place ever.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Ray. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
And Mark, let's pause the video right as we come up here. And I want to get a good look at this building right on this corner. Bingo. So at this point, we're going to play an old video from last year of this is, we've talked about a lot of folks who are familiar with Slow Roll or who participate in Slow Roll know that we have a really tight bond with the African Heritage Food Co-op, the Kitty Kickstand kids who come out every week. You saw a little bit of Deuce there in that first video with you advertising what they have for sale at all the stops. And this ride tonight, if all things were as planned over the winter, we would be having a block party right there, right now. Our annual Fruit Belt block party, we were going to move it up a couple blocks from Mulberry, where we'll be when we resume the ride shortly. But we were going to move it over here because this building is now owned by the African Heritage Food Co-op. And so we'll show a little video from last year. We're unable to have them on live with us now, unfortunately. We had a little glitch there. We send love to Alex and Rika. And, but fortunately, we have a little old video from last year, which it's a little dated in that he mentions he promotes an event, a Marcus Garvey Day event, which was a block party on there. And it did, if anybody's watching it, I wonder how that went. It was a beautiful event. And so we'll have to do our best when we come out of the video and resume the ride to catch folks up on how the co-op is doing. But so Mark, let's show that video now for a little bit of when Slow Roll was last at this corner.
Who's time? Everybody? All right. Listen, guys. First of all, thank you to all the Slow Roll participants. You guys have been very, very supportive to our youth program, the Kitty Kickstand. Every time you buy something, you're helping us teach these young people about being entrepreneurs, about having and owning their own businesses, and that is appreciated and needed. We are, as you can see, there's construction happening on 238 Carlton, right here, Carlton and Locust. It was a dream about 6 months ago. It was opened and we couldn't negotiate the price. Somebody purchased that for us and donated it to the co-op, which is awesome. And then the Preservation Network of Buffalo loaned us $50,000 to start getting it remediated. All right. The entire project is going to be around $500,000, and we're going to need a whole lot of help. But what we're doing here, we're bringing fresh fruits, vegetables, healthy offerings in walking distance in a food desert, right? That place used to be an old grocery and old deli 50 years ago. All right, so we're bringing it back. It's a historic building. Some of y'all like historic buildings. It's a historic building, a landmark building. And on August 17th, we're gonna have what's called a Garvey Day, which is a community day, remembering Marcus Garvey, who talked about self-reliance, which was very, very influential in the creation of the co-op. We're also doing a fundraiser on that day. It's a Saturday. At 5 o'clock is a fundraiser, but you can bring your kids out for free food, bounce houses, and everything else on August 17th. We need your help. We got to get to, like I said, 400,000. We're going to start a GoFundMe on the 17th. We'll talk about that probably in the next Monday right after that. And anything you guys can do to help us build this cooperative. We want to hire 50 people from the neighborhood, from around here within walking distance, right? Because you got to give people an opportunity. You have to give people a job. And the more people have gainful employment, the less crime in our community. How many of y'all know how that there's a correlation between unemployment and crime? Amen. Yeah, there is. Look it up. So we want to stop that. And we want to give people opportunities and chances. That's what the co-op's been about since we started in 2016. And again, thank you for all the support you've given us. You can check us out online, or you can check us out at myahfc.com. You can check us out on Facebook to get updates on where we are with Carlton. Check us out on Facebook to get updates on the August 17th Community Day that we're going to do right here, because it's not enough just to try to make money off of the community you're in. You have to help make the community better and the community stronger and help people that are in that community. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit. I don't want to belabor the point. I know y'all gotta go. I'll see you at the party. Keep the beer cold for me. See y'all later.
It's Alex Wright, one of the founders of the African Heritage Food Co-op. And again, that was last year right at this block here at Locust in Carlton in the Fruit Belt, looking at that building that he is referring to, which is, it's got a long way to go under construction. So if anybody wants to get involved and help support the African Heritage Food Co-op, so much support is needed, from membership to purchasing monthly, biweekly boxes of produce. And then any way that you might be able to help to bring this former corner store back to life as an African Heritage Food Co-op. And you know, they have a motto: anything less than ownership is unacceptable. And I know that is aligned with the land trust, right, India?
That's correct. This building has a remarkable story. 238 Carlton. I remember the night that building caught on fire. I lived right over there on Lemon Street. I always thought the fire was intentionally set. It was just too weird. The building had already been gutted. There was not even any mechanics in it to spark a fire. But you know, when we heard that it was slated for demo, the community rose up and said, no, we don't want it demolished. And at that time, it was in pretty unsafe condition, and there were bricks falling. And this is a major improvement. And I've seen, you know, market progress. But you know, like you said, we got a long way to go. We should definitely support Alex and the African American Food Heritage Co-op. It's a worthy cause. It's a needed amenity in the neighborhood. Well, I don't even know how I'm sorry. I don't know how you call food an amenity, right? It's not. All neighborhoods should have access to fresh food. And right now the options in this neighborhood are sorely limited. And we also need to be supporting Black ownership, Black leadership. That is how we teach our children and younger generations that we don't have to rely on someone to come save us. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. So to all who are watching, please support. It's necessary and it's needed, and there's no better time for us to get this going than now. I can hear you. I see a question mark on the screen though. Oh, now you're all of the screen.
That's not what I wanted. That's not what we want. Thanks, Mark, for dealing with me. I must have had something wrong with my computer. I had to jump out. So here we're getting just a little bit of. I wanted to get the kind of all sides to see this building and the roof. They had enough funding to stabilize the roof for starters. Of course, is so important, and still a long way to go on the inside and before it can open up. But there are so many people right now with what is going on overall in America. People are looking to organizations like the African Heritage Food Co-op, like the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust, because they're asking, how can I support Black-led businesses and organizations? How can we get true equity? It's not just about, you know, equality is one thing. Equity is a much harder thing. And I see people like, I want to give a shout out to the Black Sheep restaurant that just had a sticky toffee pudding cupcake fundraiser for the African Heritage Food Co-op. And you have Lexington Co-op supporting Feed Buffalo and Black Love Resisting the Rust and all over. And I'm honored that often people have been turning to me and say, who are the organizations? Where can I support? What can I do? And we're happy to keep showing these. And so we will continue to promote places and organizations like the African Heritage Food Co-op and the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust. And so with that, we're rolling again. So now we're going up Locust.
Mm-hmm.
So take back over, guide us. Where are we going?
Sure. So Yeah, this is Locust Street. We're headed back up toward the Armory here. I don't know that there's anything offhand that I can think of that's super remarkable, except look at those kids like playing on the porch and how friendly people are and like waving. And I just, you know, you little boys will run up to me and be like, do you need help taking your groceries in?
Oh man.
You know, and elders were running to me at the store and be like, hey, I saw those boys out here after dark last night. You need to get on them. Like it's that, right? This, when we say like build community, and I think that Slow Roll has done a good job of building community, but also like showing people like me, right, that community is a flexible, fluid, and agile thing. It has to be nimble, right? Like you have to respond to the changing conditions. It doesn't mean you leave people out, right? It does mean though that you protect your most vulnerable and you put your resources in places where it's going to have the most impact. And when we have conversations around equity and equality, the people who have been locked out of things are going to need a little more to help get us up to speed. I don't subscribe to conversations centered around we can't make the numbers work. Like time out for that. You know, when you put resources, meaningful resources in a community into the hands of the people who need it most, you get positive outcomes, period. That is all. Right now, this big red building is Promised Land Church. I believe it has landmark status. If it doesn't, it should. It's a beautiful building, beautiful architecture. That is the place where we had our first annual meeting after incorporation. We had a huge Juneteenth and Black Land Liberation cookout across the street on the lot that they own. That's a beautiful memory in my mind, because it really proved to me that we weren't in this alone, and that we did have allies outside of larger, more well-resourced organizations. You know, we did a food giveaway, and a few people called and said, I just wanted to know if I could give a small donation because we appreciate what you did, right? So a lot of times I think, you know, there's this sort of reclamation that we want to have of big money, but also we need to acknowledge that like small money matters too, and that our communities know what we need where we live, and that we will support efforts to do that. So here we are at the Mulberry Street Park. This is a little pocket park that kind of shares a backyard with Locust Street Arts. There is the Slow Roll little library there. And I think I keep saying what I love so much about this community, but another thing I love so much about this community is that the Mulberry Street Pocket Park happened because of organizing, you know, through Fruit Belt United. There was a vacant space and the community said, well, we want a playground there. So, you know, they went and they found the resources and built the park, right? No one had to come and do it for them. That was what they wanted to do. So they figured out how to do it. So I just really can't overstate how proud I am of the folks who live there, the time and care that they take in their neighborhood and in one another and their elders, and in the community overall. I think you really do a great job.
Yeah, you do. And we feel the love when we're in there. We feel that connectedness in the neighborhood, how people look after each other. And you know, there's so many little instances on this ride where you see people waving and calling out from backyards and kids running out. And in the case of that, the kid that you mentioned before over on Locust, that was a family out on the porch. And I rode past, after we finished this, I rode past that block again. And there was a woman named Nisa on that porch saying, and she said, when is Slow Roll back? And I said, no, we're just recording this for Monday. She's like, well, when are y'all coming back? I just started last year and I'm hooked. Like, I miss it so much. And we went down Mulberry, and there was a woman when we were there a couple of weeks ago around the ride last time we were here. The woman was mowing her lawn, and she said the same thing, and she was talking all about it with her daughter, and she got her daughter to come ride with, and we feel that this is, we talk about it even on this particular ride where there's 4 of us riding, I'm sorry, 5 of us, that it's just it felt so good to get one of those things that we miss about having the big Monday night gathering. Is one of the first things that we loved about Slow Roll from the very first riding downtown out Sycamore, is people coming out and waving and starting conversations and saying, and that's where the connection begins. And we felt that so much on this ride today. It was a beautiful, this ride was Friday. It was a beautiful day. So many people were out. And so it starts with a wave. And now that we've been doing this for 7 years, it's when can I ride with you again? We miss y'all.
Yeah.
And so, we've been real grateful to have this relationship with you and the Land Trust, that we've been out riding in the Fruit Belt for the last couple of months. And so recognizing a lot of these houses and the people at them, the people that you've been checking in on, and that we've been working together to make sure that people are doing all right. And we're going to stay here for that. So we're coming up now. This is Maple. We're coming up. This is the last street inside of Michigan, correct?
This is the last street, the sort of the final frontier of residential area, because once you hit Michigan, we are seeing more commercial and large scale development happen. Yeah, I can't wait to ride. So I've never actually participated in a ride before. I'll come out, I'll meet you there and get on the blowhorn.
You participated in that way, yeah.
But now that I have a bike that was so generously donated by Go Bike and Rebecca, I see she's in queue. I'm ready. I've been working on it. I've been getting my stamina up. I have lights on there, a little holder for my phone. Watch. when we are back at it, I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna ride the whole ride. And I might meet you back at the rendezvous point the next day, but
we leave no rider behind. You'll stay with us.
There's actually a cool garden right here on Maple, right before you get to High Street. I think it's the home of the Collins, but they've been doing this community garden for the last decade or so, and that's pretty impressive. So yeah, but I mean, as you can see, like right here at Maple Street, the scale of the neighborhood changes, right? We go from lots of vacant lots and little cottages, even the suburban style homes, to like tall buildings. And that is really a lot of the contention between, when folks say that we don't want development in our neighborhoods. Not true. I think we all want development. We just want it in a way that is conducive to the growth of the people, like the actual people who live there are going to benefit from it. And also in a way that it doesn't encroach on our neighborhoods and cast huge shadows so that our gardens don't get sun and our children can't like breathe fresh air or see the sky, right? Like just keep it appropriate, keep it considerate, and engage the folks and hear our voices before you make your plans. They're city honors. I'm sure everyone knows that City Honors is one of the premier schools in Western New York and in all of the country. Fosdick Maston Field. I believe the plan is to reclaim that and turn it into some green space for the school. I'm not exactly sure how that is gonna turn out. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you know what's happening here? We should have Justin on here to tell us if he knows.
Well, maybe that's a good time to bring in Rebecca. Come on in, Rebecca. Maybe she can fill us in. Rebecca
I
Riley
have
from
no
Go Bike
idea.
Buffalo. Well, you're here now.
I have
So that,
no idea. Sorry.
welcome, Rebecca. We got plenty to talk about with you anyway. But no, there's the block behind us now of Michigan has been closed off for a month or so. I would guess, if you want to find out, we know City Hall is not very responsive on these kind of things, but I'm sure they keep better communication with the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. So maybe we can ask the folks at BNMC. So we're on the line right now, where to the left is the Fruit Belt and to the right is where, and you can see how the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus and all of the hospitals, Roswell Park, Buffalo General, how to the left you can see how the development around them is beginning to encroach on the Fruit Belt. And India explained how that started to really show with parking. And I think, you know what, maybe that's a good thing to really refresh, India, because you mentioned it, but for a little 101 for folks who, that a lot of folks consider that like the first victory for the Fruit Belt residents. And when it came to development without displacement is the residential parking permit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was really sort of a Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Because if we truly had development without displacement, there would have been a more robust community engagement strategy when UB 2020 was being planned and planning for inclusive growth and development. But instead, similar to the creation of the 33, it was just like, well, like, we'll deal with those people later. And I don't know that anyone was expecting to have the sort of fight that we had surrounding parking, because it was just such a novel idea. And, like I said, it was really like, hey, if we can do that, we can do anything, right? And I think it was our current board chair, Zaid, who, when we were talking about trying to negotiate other kinds of community benefits, he said, it doesn't matter what benefits we negotiate because we won't even be the community. So it was at that point that we decided we should really try and figure out, how we can use the control of land as a point of leverage for not only the medical campus, but for other developers who are likely to follow because of the presence of the medical campus.
Well, and one of the other elders just texted me the scoop. So Denise Barr just explained what that's about. Of course, Miss Denise knows, right? And I guess she's having a trouble calling in as well, but she said the pipes are continuing to be replaced underground for our perimeter.
Oh, okay. I told you, Miss Barr, she knows it all. She's
right.
Anytime you need the word on the street, that's who you call.
That's right. And we wanted to have her join this. I hope we can fix it. I'm not sure that we will. I guess she's been trying with our producer, Mark. But where we're going here is where slow rollers participating in our rides last year last heard from Spar. So we are now at Michigan and Goodell. So you see all these cars are just flying off the highway right now. And can only imagine what you see, all those trees over to the left. What beautiful green space that was before a highway was put in the middle of it. So that's your medical campus over to the right. And so we are going to go under the highway and turn left onto Cherry Street. And the last time we were stopped on Cherry last year, Miss Denise Barr took the horn, and I wanted to give her the floor here again, but we'll do our best without her. Again, it really is so demonstrative. It's like, there are so many layers to these issues, to systemic racism, to ignoring communities and building highways through them, to development without displacement, or the development with displacement, gentrification. There's so many layers to this that it's a lot for folks who are newer to it to understand. So a place to start, how more demonstrative could it be than when we make a left here we're going to make a left onto Cherry Street. So we understand that the neighborhood is called the Fruit Belt. So now we are essentially, because of this highway, we are essentially outside of the Fruit Belt now. But this is Cherry Street. So it's obviously originally part of the Fruit Belt. You see how here we are, we've made a left onto Cherry. And yeah, there are some things going on this street. There are a few residences, there are a few commercial buildings, but because of that highway on the left, this street is completely severed from the Fruit Belt. And we know, because we listen to our elders and we know the history, that the residents said no to this. And the government did it anyway. And Ms. Barr minced no words when she took the bullhorn here last year and explained to people why that happened and that it is systemic racism. When you ignore people voting repeatedly and voicing their concerns repeatedly, it's not like these people in these neighborhoods have not made their feelings known to government officials, right? I don't know if we lost you, Indy, or if you just didn't want to leave me to go rant on. But
I have to choose my words very wisely because I think for the most part, and especially lately, I am increasingly angry. I mean, between a sense of anger, rage, and also a sense of pride in how resilient Black people are, and how we have been able to survive all of the things that were meant to destroy and keep us in horrible, destitute, and depressing conditions. And it makes me sad that we have to experience so much death and so much violence in order for this to become a part of the mainstream conversation. But here we are, right? So, I feel like those of us who are active, and even those of us who are not, have a responsibility to use this moment to amplify these stories. It's not that no one knew, right? The Miss Bars have been working forever. The Gail Wells have been working forever. There are people who've been working on our behalf to rectify these injustices forever. And we have to honor that. And now we have to fight even harder so that they see a change and they don't leave us without a sense of hope that all that they did, all the work they did, all the sacrifices they made have not been made in vain. But yeah, Cherry Street is, in our hearts, still very much a part of the Fruit Belt. And we just actually passed by the home of one of our biggest supporters. I go by and I visit her sometimes, Miss Davis, and she just has albums and albums of photos. When she was in better health, she would come out to the community meetings and have take pictures and have them printed out. And she just has albums and albums of photos of the different community events that we've had over the years. So
beautiful. And so you can see too, I mean, you're talking about the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust had to fight to get control of a few of the vacant lots in the neighborhood from the city in order to build, in order to develop for the community. And here we just see like the end of, there's a little bit of paint left on Cherry from a bike lane that was put there. This is not a busy street, but the city will throw some paint down and turn back to people like Rebecca at Go Bike and say, are you happy with your progress? Look what we did for you, as if we're supposed to be like, good job, we'll go away now. It's just nonsense.
Right.
And so now we're going to we turn left onto Jefferson here, going over the highway. And we're going to so we're back up still with the Fruit Belt on the left, and a neighborhood that was destroyed on the right for the building of the highway that was called Brewers Hill. when it was more of a German neighborhood. It's just, I didn't know about that until Restore Our Community Coalition. Bradley Bethel wrote about it a couple of years ago. It's just the history is so near wiped out. So you see to the right, that's Carlton dead ending there. There's a couple of houses there, but what's left of that for when you put a highway in? I do want to give a shout out coming up on the right. There's a new restaurant called Sunshine Vegan Eats that opened where Je ne sais quoi moved up to Hurdle, and Sunshine has been doing great there. We see there's people out on the patio when we went past it Friday. But still, long-time businesses over on the left is Miss Betty's Dirt Cheap, little consignment store and a beautiful old house on Jefferson, and that resilience. You're darn right. So this is a good time. Go ahead.
That right there is what we do not want.
Yeah, agreed.
That is not inclusive development. We want Sunshine Vegan Eats. I ate there the other day. It was delicious. It was great. Food was hot. Fries were hand cut from real potatoes. They still had the skin on them, Seamus. It was so good.
Love it.
Family Dollar, they can keep that. We don't need that in our neighborhood.
That's not helping. We're gonna make our way north out of the Fruit Belt and into the Maston Park neighborhood. And I don't think we have folks from the Foundry on yet, but we want to bring you in, Rebecca, here. So now's a good time to do this. So Rebecca Riley from Go Bike Buffalo, one of our lead slow roll squad, also the East Side Bike Club. Rebecca, look at Jefferson Avenue here. This is a main street, north to south in Buffalo, from Main Street down to Swan. How bikeable would you consider Jefferson?
Well, it's probably not for the faint of heart. It's a wide street. Periodically there's parts that have no lines on it, not even for the cars. Since it's wide, just imagine yourself driving down the highway and there's no one on the highway and it's very wide, and you probably feel comfortable going 65, 70, 80 miles an hour, but you wouldn't drive that fast going down an alley. So complete streets narrows the vision for the vehicles. All these streets, these main arterials like Jefferson, Bailey, they are meant to carry truck traffic at speed on highways. And you say, well, why on earth would they design it for that? Engineers tend to build on not necessarily common sense. They build to move cars, they build to move vehicles, and they consider pedestrians and bicyclists and handicapped folks obstacles to get around. The whole idea of a sidewalk was to get rid of pedestrians in the street. Jaywalking is a term that was come up with by lobbyists from the automakers to keep people off the street. So there's really, no better example of institutional racism than the street. The street is, it's not for the people that live there necessarily. There are streets that are more conducive to just being a person. Elmwood comes to mind. It's pleasant, it's pretty. And part of the reason is because cars are going slower. If you have a rapid flow of traffic that's like homicidal, just in the fact that it's not paying attention and going very fast, it's not conducive to being human and having human conversations and walking across the street. The 33 is the perfect example. It is a demarcation point that was dropped. And this isn't just these problems, the institutional, systematic cutting off and over monitoring of Black and brown people is not just Buffalo. It's all over the nation. Roads were designed to give white people the most comfort. So it got us out of the city. We moved into the suburbs, and it got us in and out quickly. It's a roadmap it's a case study in how to corral people into, redlined areas and keep them cut off. I always when I was a courier, I worked in 10 cities around the United States. I always lived in the poorer parts of town. And it always irritated me how the highways always took the suburbanites out of whatever town I was in, and sometimes over these poor areas, so they didn't have to look at, the blight, so the view was obstructed or whatever, so they don't have to look at this uncomfortable truth. I love the Fruit Belt for a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons is because it's so walkable, it's beautiful. The history of it is, it's very touching, and it's tragic, but then it's like the phoenix from the flames. I came back to Buffalo in 2010, and I had been all over the United States, around the world, and I kept seeing folks displaced by gentrification. And then I saw it happening in the Fruit Belt, and it was really disturbing to me. I had friends in Washington, D.C., who their ancestors had started living in Washington, D.C., downtown, when they were freed as like they became freed after slavery. And they had houses in their families from that time. And because of gentrification, the housing values went up, but their incomes were not commensurate with that, and they just had no choice. They had to go and move to these horrible prefab neighborhoods out in the suburbs. They just didn't have a choice, and it was heartbreaking, to have a family home that everyone is very proud of, that they can't live there anymore. And then all these people come in and fix it up, and now it's $1 million home, and now it's completely inaccessible. And I was seeing that happen in the Fruit Belt, and I was really lucky enough to meet some folks that invited me in to some meetings and stuff. And I started to hear the language around gentrification and anchoring communities. And I look at it from an economic perspective. If you have a part of your city where there's just a whole bunch of folks who are struggling all the time, it's not good for your city. Everyone loses. If you really think about it, it's a terrible waste of resources to not find the potential in everyone that's there. And there's a sort of disposability attitude that developers take, that some people just don't matter. And that could really be illustrated by the crash that happened last Sunday, where a man was killed on Bailey at about 12:40 a.m. Now, the first thing that comes out of a lot of people's mouths is, oh, well, he shouldn't have been riding on Bailey, it's dangerous. Well, what if he lived right off Bailey and he had somewhere he had to go? I mean, where's he supposed to ride? I live on a street very similar, or off a street. I live off Elmwood in Kenmore. It's horrible. I'm very salty. I'm very capable of riding a bike. I've ridden around the world. Not much scares me. But I go out on Elmwood, and it infuriates me, because people they drive so fast. They're very impatient. The speed limit is very clearly posted as 30 on Elmwood and on Bailey. And yet when we did the memorial on Sunday, or Saturday rather, with a ghost bike on Bailey where the man was killed, there wasn't anyone going 30. They were at least going 40, if not 50 or 60 miles an hour. I was hit by a car in 1999 that was going 30 miles an hour. I lived, clearly, I lived. When you go past 25 miles per hour, your chances of living from a crash go way down. So you have to ask yourself, why do we have highways in the middle of cities?
It's a great question. And we're going to continue to ask it. We're going to continue to demand answers from people in City Hall now about what are they going to do about it. And we're going to continue to show how it's impacted the neighborhoods around them. We wanted to pause here that we're at the Foundry. So thanks, Mark, for rewinding a little bit to get us back there. You can start the footage up again, but I know, India, this is a place where we've had Slow Roll. I know Jason Hall, the founder of Slow Roll from up in Detroit, was watching. Actually watching you on the bullhorn at the beginning and commented on Facebook, "Are y'all riding?" I figured we'd confuse a couple people. We confused one of the founders of Slow Roll in Detroit. Jason was here in 2015 when we were just growing so much by the week. We were up to about 500. We were back here. We've been back many times to stop. We wanted to just show this off again, and you wanted to show this off on the route. So while we're just kind of hovering around here a minute, can you explain why you wanted to include the Foundry in this route?
Sure. So I think that as an organization that believes in a just transition, for places like the Foundry to exist, and also the director's husband, Michael Zach, runs a cooperative hydroponic farm. Megan is just a superb person. There's this business incubator. So, it's just an example of how robust community partnerships can really lead to positive change, right? Already just in this ride, we've already drawn the link between the CLT, Locust Street Art, Go Bike, Slow Roll, the Foundry. We're going to have the African American Cultural Center. Like all of these connections are important, and the establishing and maintaining of a robust community network is ultimately what is going to keep our community safe, healthy, and moving forward. I think the overarching theme for us at the Land Trust is self-determination, right? Like we want to have a say in what happens where we live, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think, it warrants a broader, more open discussion about like how public resources are allocated and used, right? We're gonna do a press conference on Wednesday about some community development block grant funding that's coming. Like, where is it going, right? You're telling us it's getting to the people. Is it actually, right? Are you making improvements to a census block in proximity to the poor people, and the poor people don't actually feel it? What are the transparency and accountability mechanisms that we are building in to hold one another accountable? And also, though I'm always just going way off. I'm sorry, I'll bring it back. So yeah, but similar to the Fruit Belt, Maston Park is also a tight knit community, right? That still has a little bit of its existing housing fabric left, but you can see that the planning strategy for that neighborhood has been to demolish. And there's a way for us to save homes, to rehab them, to do it in a way that we're not putting toxic materials into the ground and into our landfills, that we're remediating and providing healthy environments for our children and families to grow, work, and live. And that is our priority, and in a way where the community is engaged, involved, making the decisions, and on the job site as well. So it's really a multi pronged strategy to community development that I think is going to flip the way we see development on its head, and really be an example of what is possible when you allow the people who are on the front line to lead. We know what we need. We might not always have the resources to make it happen, but we know exactly what we would do with it if we were just given a chance, and not with the 250-page application for funding. Simplify the process, put the money in the hands of the people who are actually doing the work, like Tammy, so that we can improve the places where we live. So with that, we're coming up on the cultural center. So can we hit Tammy on?
Let's do it. So we'll say goodbye to Rebecca quickly, but we'll keep in touch, Rebecca, and welcome Tammy Curry from the African American Cultural Center. Good to see you, Tammy.
Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing?
Doing great. Better for having you on here. We're rolling up Michigan, and so we're going to do a little loop back down towards your place at 350 Maston. I did get that right. It's 350 Maston, correct?
Yep, right.
So we're going to go past the Freedom Wall. We're going to turn right from Michigan onto Ferry, and I'm doing there what's called the Idaho Stop. See, I looked and I saw that the intersection was clear, and even though there was a red light, it was clear for a cyclist to go through. It's called the Idaho Stop because there's a law passed in Idaho allowing you to go through a stop sign on a bike if the coast is clear. So we would like to have the Buffalo Stop, but we need some legislation for that. But I digress. So we're going to go up to the Freedom Wall. We're going to say hello to Drea Deneur on the. She's not going to be on with us live, but we were getting ready there and helping her get ready. We'll see Rebecca on the camera when we get to the Freedom Wall, and Drea and Black Love Resist and the Rust put together just a beautiful gathering Friday night at the Freedom Wall called Free Them. And it was a protest, a peaceful protest with music and dancing. And we were honored to get the call to help close the street. We did so easily, peacefully, and without any help of any others. India, as you say, the people closest to the problems are closest to the solutions. We didn't need, so y'all didn't need to file a city permit to have a party at the Freedom Wall Friday night. We're honored to get that call, and it only took a few of us to shut it down. And it was a beautiful gathering. And so you'll see as we're rolling up here on the Freedom Wall, we're just setting up. You're going to say something, India?
I was just going to say, I'm also guessing that once people saw what was going on, they probably didn't even complain. It was like, oh, they're having a street party for Juneteenth. Cool.
Yeah. It wasn't really stressful on our part blocking the street. It was Friday night at 6 o'clock. It's not like it was quiet. And people, like you said, people fly down these two streets. They're not designed well. But that wall is sure designed well. There's a Freedom Wall with 28 murals. I did a little loop here. 28 murals. Albright Knox Art Gallery, Public Art. They're done by 4 local artists: Chuck Tingley, Julia Bottoms, Idris Wajed, John Baker, Rosa Parks on one end, Harriet Tubman on the other. And so we'll see Drea and them, and just I would encourage everyone to, if you want to know more about that, to stay in touch with organizations like Black Love Resist and the Rust and Feed Buffalo and Project Mona's House, who collaborated to put that event together. And there will be more. It was beautiful and smooth and safe and joyful. So we're going to loop around here and then make our way back to Maston. And that's why that we brought called you in, Tammy. So Tammy, you are let me see if I get it right, program director at African American Cultural Center?
Program associate director.
Thank you. Program associate director. So catch us up. We'll pass it coming up soon when we turn on to Maston. But it's
for the record, it's so cool. This virtual slow roll. I love it.
Thank you. It's great to have you a part of it. We had slow roll at your place. At the African American Cultural Center a few years ago, the old school B-boys performing at the after party. And it was such a beautiful scene. And we had talked about having it again this year, and maybe there's still a way to do it. But in the meantime, so we're just, if anybody's wondering what's going on, we're just checking in here as they're getting set up, because we kind of had our hands in multiple things going on at the same time. So we'll get rolling here in a few seconds, and we'll continue on Ferry and turn right onto Maston, looping around Performing Arts High School, and then we'll see the African American Cultural Center. So much activity there on a daily basis. How is it going now?
Well, it's not much activity as, normal, because, there was no after school program, no Positive Productive Sisters. But we're just trying to, move to a virtual world. I was very disappointed, that our Jumpin' Jambalaya summer program didn't get to, go as planned. It would have been starting Monday. Monday would have been starting this coming Monday. But the goal is to provide different, informational sessions and activities for the kids throughout the summer via online. Me personally, I'm tired of online. I know, everything is, virtual, because of the situation, but I know the kids are tired of the computers. Even my son, like, he loves video game, but he's tired of being on Zoom calls, so we're gonna do something like maybe like once a week for the kids, to still, make that connection. And soon we'll be gonna do a movie night for the families to come, put a projector in the parking lot. And um we're trying to debate whether we wanted to do like a drive-in, movie kind of deal, or just, do chairs and social distancing. It's so much easier to do it in the car, but you can get more people if you do it with the chairs and social distancing.
Well, and you've got that big lot across the street as well. Yeah.
Yeah. We a lot of people normally park there, so that was my thought, to park across the street and just put the movie right up on the front of the building. It's white, so it'll be good.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be really cool. I'm just going to give Mark, our producer, a heads up that when we get there, let's pause it for a moment on the center. We're just a couple blocks away. Oh, we're here, aren't we?
Right.
So here it is. Yeah, Mark, when we get a good look at this building on the right, let's pause it here. I made sure to get a good look as we roll past. This is the African American Cultural Center. So there's that lot there to the right where we had the slow roll after party and the old school B-boys were playing. But interestingly, I'm just reminded that lot across the street, it's almost the whole block that's open. And I remember when we had slow roll there a few years ago,
Full of cars.
It was overgrown. In the week leading up that lot, we were like, well, is there anything we can do to use this space? Like, well, that lot's like overgrown. It was like 4 feet high or something, at least. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, we don't really know what's going on over there. And just without any warning, by the time Monday came around for slow roll, it had been mowed by the city.
Yep.
And that was one of those signs that we realized that we don't even have to call. They know where we're going to be. And we notice that the city has a way of making streets and spaces around them look better before slow roll gets there. And you wonder, it's not as though no one had asked before for that lot to be addressed, right?
Right. We always do. And, we try to, get certain lots, because they sell them to people for so cheap. But it's, sometimes it's a little loophole, and they don't want to come up off of it. But, big things are going to happen soon at 350 Maston. We're working on our capital campaign. And before you know it, it's going to be this grand old building right there.
Beautiful. Oh, that's news. I didn't know about that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us more.
I'll tell you more. Well, we're just working. We have some funds from different representatives. So right now we're just, going through the process. Hopefully it'll be before 2030. But things, there's a process for everything. So right now we're just waiting for the green light to begin building, and it'll happen.
And this is improvements and an expansion, right, Tammy?
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice.
That's exciting, and we want to give a big shout out, direct and upwards, to the memory of Miss Agnes Bain.
Yes, absolutely.
It was so welcoming when so much of when we ride the East Side, the mark of George Johnson, our friend and founder of the East Side Bike Club, is all over our rides. And where we first met him was actually at the Foundry. He showed up at that ride in 2015 because I had reached out to Buffalo United Front. And George had said sometime afterward, became a close collaborator, that this would be a good place to have Slow Roll. And I'm grateful to George for introducing us to Miss Bain. And we lost her here on the ground over the winter. But I imagine that this expansion will have her name probably literally written all over it, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all her. You know, I've been affiliated with the center for years. I grew up there starting at the age of 6. So I've been there over 30 years. And, you know, for her not to be there is just so surreal to me because, you know, through my life, there's never a time where she wasn't there. So, you know, it's an adjustment, you know, but my goal is to make her proud and to just continue carrying the torch and making sure, you know, we are not lost in the sauce, you know, make sure the AACC stays active and that cornerstone in the community.
Well, we'll be here to help any way we can, and we'll keep in touch with you, Tammy. It's good. Is there anything you want to just at least leave us with letting anyone watching know how to keep up with the center and anything that's going to be coming up this summer?
You can visit us online, aaccbuffalo.org, Facebook, AACC Buffalo, and we have an Instagram page. It's fairly new. We're working, but it's aacc.buffalo. But, you know, give me an email, African Cultural 350 if you want to know the 411. But definitely Facebook and online, we can be contacted.
Thank you, Tammy. We'll be sure to keep in touch. And thanks for taking some time with us tonight. India, I know, hey, you're the host here. I step into the void to take over, but is there anything else you want to talk about with the center?
No, thank you so much. I'm excited to see what's ahead for you all, and just keep the faith. COVID kind of took the wind out of all of our sails in the world. All of a sudden just came to a screeching halt, but I think that we'll be okay. I said a little bit earlier about how proud I am of the resilience of our community, and I know that you know, COVID definitely is not going to change that.
Right. We will not be forgotten.
Right.
Right on. Well, thanks again for joining us, Tammy. Oh, pardon me.
No, I'm just saying thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. We'll keep in touch.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Now, so we'll resume the ride here for the home stretch. And as we work our way back to the Fruit Belt, we got one more guest for us, right, India?
I do. So I would be remiss if I ever talk about the Fruit Belt and don't talk about Mrs. Elizabeth Burgos and Mrs. Hazel Irene Galt. Not only were they best friends, they were also instrumental in a lot of the advocacy that occurred in the Fruit Belt, along with saving School 37. So I have the son of Mrs. Galt on, Dr. Intari, all the way from Arizona. I called in like big favors for this show.
Anytime I get a chance to talk about my mother and Mrs. Burgos, you're not even asking for a favor. You're doing me a favor.
So, was it last summer or the summer before? Your mother was honored with a designated route. Can you just tell me about your mom's life and her relationship with Ms. Burgos, and how everything led up to the redesignating of a portion of High Street in her honor?
Okay, no problem. First, I want to say that I was watching and I saw you riding up Cherry Street. And that brings back so many memories because you went right under the bridge that my mother threatened to boycott and force the city, the state, and the county to come together and build right at Locust Street. Locust Street on one side and Hickory on the other. and because there was only one bridge that was connecting the Fruit Belt to going over the 33, and that was at Peach Street. And so my mother threatened to boycott so that they would build another bridge. So it's a half mile away, but that's the only other connection because people were getting killed trying to run across the 33, and they were getting ran over by cars. And so one of her friends came to my mother one day.
I think we lost Antari. Oh man.
No.
We can see if he can try to reconnect. We still have about 5 minutes left in the ride, so I'd love to bring him back if he can get back in.
Here he is.
Okay, here he's back.
Okay.
Come on back in.
Okay. So can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, so my mother and Mrs. Burgos, they moved there my mother moved in 1960. Mrs. Burgos moved over there in about 60, I think it was about 64, 65, and working at School 37 because it was going through so many problems, and they started parent organizations, and I think Mrs. Burgos at one time was the president, my mother was the vice president, and with that work from School 37, they went on and started working with the CAO and other organizations. They both started working at the Fruit Belt Center together on Peach and High Street. And that was where they started doing a lot of their work, getting block grants to have houses improved and things like that. And their friendship, they also was funny. It was like 2 burgles for every galt. so it was 10 of them and 5 of us. So we were like actually slotting in between them. But so they were having their children at the same time, and then they went to undergrad together. They both graduated together from UB, got their bachelor's on the same day. Then they, and some of it was because my mother's, they were able to ride into school together, so they took all the same classes. And then they went for their master's together and got their master's on the same day together. And ironically, Mrs. Burgos passed away on Christmas Eve of 2014, and I immediately went over to the Burgos house because and talked to the family. When my father called me up and said, there's a lot of activity at the Burgos house right now, and I knew something was wrong. And then my mother went to the hospital days later, and we lost my mother on January 3rd of 2015. So they lived their lives together, and they passed away about 10 days apart.
Wow.
So, it was actually May of last year. I happened to be in town receiving my graduating with my PhD, and so I arranged it with the city so that we could designate that area of High Street after my mother. Oh, we're coming onto Rose Street. Okay, this is my old street. My father still lives on Rose, so and we all call this High Rose. It's only a 3-block street, but this is High Rose. And my mother's sign is kind of as soon as you make this right turn, you'll see the sign for her street. And she was more known as Irene Galt. Hardly anybody knew her name was Hazel, but she was more known as Irene. her middle name, and but I wanted to have her official name on the sign. And my daughter was born about almost a year to the day later after losing my mom, and so we named my daughter Hazel Irene.
And she is beautiful and adorable, and I can just tell by the things you post about her that she is a spirited young person who already carries the legacy of her grandmother.
She does.
Just has awesome parents. So we're back at 168 Rose, where we're going to build 2 single-family houses in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Irene Galtway is just down the road on High Street. Not a stone's throw away. And actually, I think that we might have been given a tour of this area to some people from California the day that we just so happened upon you in the neighborhood. So I knew that in doing this role that I needed to have a representative from either of the 2 families on to just speak to how beautiful their relationship was. And I think that is the type of relationship that is the epitome of relationships in the Fruit Belt. They're so authentic, and the folks there just work together because they want to see everybody be okay and do well. So I appreciate you taking the time. Is there any one last thing you want to share?
I remember when all these were houses. I remember having friends living in all these houses. And this area right here, you don't know how many times Andrew Fetta and I came up the street with our basketball heading towards Maston Playground to go to the basketball court. And so these are just so many memories, because these were multi-unit houses that were all right here. Mm-hmm. And so right here represented probably 20 to 30 people living within them.
Wow.
So yeah, seeing these being grassy fields is actually heartbreaking, because I remember families. So, but thank you so much for inviting me here. Actually, I have family from all around the country watching this right now, and many of them have never seen where we lived, and so they see the neighborhood that we came from. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Tari. I appreciate that lesson. And I mean, India, I mean, we're going to, this is where, full circle here, round trip route. I certainly feel, and Tari, when he said it, it's heartbreaking looking at this, but we're going to leave everyone with a vision of a happier future for this space.
Absolutely. And, what we're learning is that there's a lot of work that goes into all of a sudden. But know that our silence doesn't mean that we've gone away. We've been just focused internally on building the systems that we need to bring housing to the community in a way that is sustainable and that is more just than what we've seen. So the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust is definitely here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We appreciate everyone for the support. Visit our website at fruitbelt-clt.org or fbcommunitylandtrust.org. I think everybody in the greater Buffalo metro area probably has my phone number or knows how to get in touch with me. So reach out. I'm super approachable and I'm willing to talk to anyone about just about anything. And I appreciate you having me on.
It's our honor, India. And where we're, this is paused here at the end, but as we were getting back to it, there's 4 more of our squad riding with me here. We said like, hey, we should help build these houses. And we build little libraries, and that we show up as a squad for different things. And so is that just a matter of contacting Teresa and the Habitat crew?
I'm sorry, I was thirsty. I'm not sure. I don't know. I would need to think about that, because it's one thing for Habitat, but it will also be beneficial to the prospective homeowner because it will help them with their sweat equity hours. Right. So I'm not sure if I would rather have you all just like schedule a time to volunteer for Habitat specifically, or use those man hours to help a family get into their home a little sooner. So let me just think about that for a while and I'll get back to you. But we will definitely get you on the job site. And if it's not that one, we got that house over there on Lemon Street that we're going to be rehabbing. So we got options.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too in this while you're talking. Like, yeah, maybe the one over on Lemon, that will show up for y'all. And it's this collaboration between our organizations just means so much to us, and we appreciate how open you are about teaching us about what's going on and giving us ways to get involved and building together. And I keep echoing those words in your head that I know that you're not your words originally, but I learned them from you as you're explaining about how the Fruit Belt is organizing and how they're capable. The people closest to the problems are closest to the solutions.
That's right. Appreciate you.
Likewise, India. So now I hope you don't have to go entirely. I know you might be at least thirsty and maybe a little exhausted, but actually I know you're not tired. You don't get tired. So we called up some old for our after party. So now that our ride has come full circle, you know that when we've had our Fruit Belt block parties, when we've been at the Moot Center or on Mulberry, we've had music at the end of the ride. Well, it's not going to be live, but so we called up an old performance from the Fruit Belt's own Preach Freedom and the Afrobeat Orchestra. And this is actually from 2017 in Larkin Square, where I was fortunate enough to book the music there and got to book Afrobeat. This was part of the Colored Musicians Club annual Jazz Fest, when we said, look, let's have Larkin be involved in the Jazz Fest. And so I said, Walter, who do you want to have play? And we had Bishop Perry and Afrobeat Orchestra. And so we're going to play a full set.
No.
Thanks to Buffalo.fm, thanks to Band Together Buffalo, and thanks to some footage that they have from 3 years ago when we got together in Larkin Square. Let's enjoy a set from Fruit Belt's own Preach Freedom and the Buffalo Afrobeat Orchestra for 1 whole hour. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. More to come.
That's Miss Ella Peroni over there. I no be gentleman at all. I no be gentleman at all. I no be gentleman at all at all. Da, 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 da. I no be gentleman at all. I no be gentleman at all. I no be gentleman at all at all. Na, 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 na. The Africa man, original. I be Africa man, original. Yeah. I be Africa man, original. Them call you, make you come chop. You chop small, say you belly full. Say you be gentleman, you go hungry, you go suffer, you go quench. Me I no be gentleman like that. I no be gentleman at all. I be Africa man, original. I no be gentleman at all. I be Africa man, original. I no be gentleman at all. You go their way, the judge way. Somebody come bring original trouble. You no talk, you no act. Say you be gentleman. You go so far, you go tire. Me I no be gentleman like that. I no be gentleman at all. I be Africa man, original. Yeah. I be Africa man, original. Africa hot. I like a ham so. I know what to wear, but my friends don't know. He put him socks, he put him shoes, he put him shorts, he put him singlet, he put him trousers, he put him pants, he put him tie, he put him cup. Him go cover all with him heart, him be gentleman. Him go sweat all over, him go faint right down, him go smell like him go be so bottle, but he won't know. He be gentleman like that. I don't be gentleman at all. I be Africa man, original, yeah. I be Africa man, original. I be Africa man, original, yeah. I be Africa man, original. I be Africa man, original. upside down. Shabazz.
Open that book them called dictionary. Open that make them see. I said open that book them called dictionary. Open that make them see. Upside down and dirty proper. Them recognize the walk for sure, yes. Open that make them see. Because him got him meaning to. Legs fall down, Yashua. Because him got him meaning to. Legs fall down, Yashua. Upside down, get him meaning to. Legs fall down, Yashua. Upside down, get him meaning to. Legs fall down, Yashua. I don't travel, I don't see. Give it to best up for this land. Things awake, we see, go talk about upside up and downside down. Oh, I see, where I see communication organized, agriculture organized, electric organized, their system organized, their people organized, their people organized. Englishman gets the English name, American man gets the American name, German man gets the German name, Russian man gets the Russian name, Chinese man gets the Chinese name.
For African man outside don't see, beginning to vex up far in this land. I don't travel anywhere, everything they undone my nose. For African man outside don't see, feeling boku road no there, land boku food no there, area boku boss no there. People know they are African name, people don't think they African style, people know that they're Africa great. For African man, him don't see.
Communication disorganized, everything disorganized, electric organized, everything is upside down, everything is organized, disorganized, 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 everything is upside down, everything is upside down, everything is upside down, everything is upside down, everything is upside down.
right. Yo. Emilio Varela on conga.
You left it at home. You left it at home.
Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, no go go unless you tell him to go. Zombie no go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie no go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie no go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie, zombie, oh zombie, zombie no go go unless you tell him to go. Zombie no go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie no go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie no go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie, zombie, oh zombie, zombie no go go unless you tell him to go. Zombie no go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie no go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie no go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie, zombie, oh zombie. Tell him to go straight, straight. Joro, jara, joro. No blink, no jump, no say. Joro, jara, joro. Tell him to go kick, kick. Joro, jara, joro. No break, no jump, no say. Joro, jara, joro. Tell them to go quick. Joro, jara, joro. No break, no jump, no say. Joro, jara, joro. Go and give. Go and buy. Go and turn. Pull up on reverse. Go and give. Go and quench. Go and die. Pull up on reverse. Joro, jara, joro. Zombie win now away. Joro, jara, joro. Zombie win now away. Joro, jara, joro. Zombie win now away. Joro, jara, joro. Attention, quick march, slow march, right turn, left turn, double up, side loop, open your hat, stand at ease, fall in, fall out, fall down. Get ready. Ha, 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 ha. Order. Order. Attention, quick march, slow march, right turn, left turn, double up, side loop, open your hat, stand at ease, fall in, fall down, get ready. Attention, quick march, slow march, left turn, right turn, above turn, side loop, open your hat, stand at ease, fall in, fall out, get ready. Order! Mr. Kyle Gustafson. Celebrating 100 years of jazz music in Buffalo, New York. Put your hands together. 100, give me 100, give me 100 years of music. Give me 100, give me 100, give me 100 years of music. Give me jazz music. Give me jazz music. Give me jazz music. What 100 years of music? It's a Buffalo Afrobeat Orchestra. Buffalo's Afrobeat Orchestra. Music for the people. Attention, quick march, left turn, right turn, double up, salute, open your hat, stand at ease, falling, fall out, get ready, attention, quick march, slow march, left turn, right turn, about turn, salute, open your hat, stand at ease, falling, fall out, get ready, attention, quick march, slow march, left turn, right turn, double up, salute, open your hat, stand at ease, fall out, get ready, Ah. Order! That's Mr. Reggie Evans on the drum kit. Ringo Brill, congas. Matt Walker, percussion. Mr. Dan Malott. Mr. Rodney Chamberlain on bass. Buffalo Afrobeat Orchestra. Look us up. We'll be playing at the Sly Fest this year.
You can come get some flyers if you want some. Sly Fest. We'll be playing August 11th.
We only play a few times a year. We'd like to thank Larkin Square, the Color Musicians Jazz Club. Every time I'm here, I let you know you can't get down without the sound. So big love to the sound, man, and everybody that makes this happen. Oh yes, give me some guitar, Mr. John Victor. Hey, hey, hey. This is a celebration. It's going to be our last song for the evening. We are the Buffalo Afrobeat Orchestra. We hope you had a good time and enjoy the music. Get to the Jazz Fest. Support local music everywhere, all the time. Local art everywhere, all the time. And it's all for the people. get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. 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 Hands up. One love, Buffalo. We got to get a drummer song. Mr. Reggie Evans, hold on. Mr. Reggie Evans.
Yeah, what a beautiful scene.
Don't
Preach
forget,
Freedom and the
Jazz
Buffalo
Fest happening until
Afrobeat
Saturday.
Orchestra
Check out the schedule.
at Larkin Square. That's
Check
from
out a t-shirt over there.
2017
Thank you for
when I was part of the entertainment at Larkin Square, and we had that was part of the Colored Musicians Club annual Jazz Fest. We had just what a joyful sound that Afrobeat is. And with a message too, you hear that song from Tony Allen, one of the Afrobeat pioneers who we lost this year, talking about progress. And we've been talking a lot about that tonight. And I hope that you all enjoyed. If you're just tuning in, you want to watch back from the start for our ride and how we talked about progress in the Fruit Belt, with capping it off with the Fruit Belt Zone, Preach Freedom there, but how to achieve development without displacement here on our Community Land Trust Ride. Appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate Mark, our producer, Mark Odian with Buffalo.fm and Band Together Buffalo. Thanks to Buffalocal for supporting Band Together Buffalo and Slow Roll. I got my CBW Big Ditch collaboration, Practically Infinite India Pale Lager. Looking forward to getting back to the breweries themselves. Maybe we'll do that by next week. We'll be knocking on their doors and seeing if we can do our after party at least with some music and fellowship as things start to reopen. we're not sure when we'll reopen our group rides publicly. But we will be back next Monday with a virtual slow roll, and we will have another ride in between now and Monday, so stay tuned. We are going to bring back it will be our second annual Pride Ride. It is still Pride Month. I remind you all that Pride, what we now know as the Pride Parade, began as a protest, and it's come so far in just a generation's time. And we started off a Pride Ride last year as a way to inform and honor the history, and we had so many great partners on that, and we didn't want to lose what we hoped would be an annual tradition. So our second annual Pride Ride will happen between now and next Monday. You'll have to stay tuned to slowrollbuffalo.org and our Facebook group, and we will not be inviting the whole public to attend. We're just not ready for that yet, but we will be ready for smaller group rides when we can do so responsibly. And again, we'll keep in touch with public health leaders on exactly how to do that. We have some ideas. We're turning into plans, but we're not going to do that on our own. We're really going to make sure that we consult with the leaders on that, on public health, to make sure we do it responsibly. Just not ready to open things up to everybody, because we know that there are a lot of people who participate in our rides, because we draw thousands of people from all over the place, all kinds of people. That part of being so inclusive means that we have some people who just really don't believe in the science of what is going on now. So we know that there's a resistance to things like covering your face, and which is just, there's some basic science to really understand about that some people are still not believing for some reason. And so that will keep us from opening our group rides to the entire public, because we can't trust people to ride responsibly. And when you think about a group ride and who's in front of you and what may be coming out of them and into your airspace. So we're going to be really careful about how we reopen our rides. So we appreciate everybody who tunes in to do this here, again, in the present, doing this live. And in the future, anybody who's watching back on this, we're doing this virtually for now. We have every intention of resuming responsibly when we can, but not such a drive to do it immediately. We want to be really responsible here. In the meantime, we have so much thanks to you all for sticking with us. And as we continue to connect communities by bike, we can do that in so many ways. The bike is the vehicle. It is really about connecting community. And so we did that with the Community Land Trust tonight, and such great progress in the Fruit Belt, the community organizing for their own good. And we are here for that. We are here to support that. And we've been doing that for years. And it's nice to show it in this way, that maybe people can learn a little more than they would have if they were to just ride along and hear some announcements at the stops. So we hope y'all learned a little something tonight. Really grateful to India Walton, the director of the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust, for co-hosting, and all the guests we had on: Tammy Curry from the African American Cultural Center, Rebecca Riley from Go Bike Buffalo, and so many more who joined us. And apologies to those who weren't able to connect online to be with us. So Denise Barr and Frederica Barton, will have you back on in another way, because we're going to keep this going. So big thanks to Independent Health for helping us keep the wheels rolling, even though we can't do it in such big numbers in person. We will keep it going with your help if you stay tuned. Keep in touch with us, slowrollbuffalo.org, Facebook, Instagram. Send us a note, slowrollbuffalo@gmail.com. If you have any ideas, anything you want us to bring some light to, you need help with anything, you're looking for a partner. Our squad is out doing so many things with so many people right now. We're in some less visible ways, but we are here to connect communities. We're going to keep it going. Keep in touch. Peace.